everyone. This is Professor Villalpando. Today we are going to talk about complex and compound complex sentences, two sentence types that we will be using in our writing this semester. So let's start with complex sentences. Okay, so a complex sentence is a sentence that has one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. Here we see John cannot set up his computer because the wall has no outlet. The first part of the sentence, John cannot set up his computer, is an independent clause. We can use that part of the sentence on its own as a sentence. The second part of the sentence, because the wall has no outlet, starts with a subordinating conjunction, because. So since it starts with a subordinating conjunction, this is a dependent clause. Now, we can put, in a complex sentence, we can put the dependent clause at the beginning or the end of the sentence. If it comes in the beginning, you follow it with a comma. So here we see the dependent clause is in the beginning of the sentence. We know it's the dependent clause because it starts with a subordinating conjunction, when. Since it's in the beginning of the sentence, it is followed with a comma. Notice the dependent clause comes first and the independent clause comes second. Now, there are many subordinating conjunctions, and we use them to show different relationship between the two clauses in the sentence. So here are some transitions that show opposition or contrast. Although, whereas, though, and while. These show opposite. Some time subordinating conjunctions are after, before, since, until, while, and when. Now, some subordinating conjunctions that show causes are because, as, and since. And results are so that or in order that. And ones that show condition are if, unless, and provided that. Here are some examples. Okay, so here are some examples with those types of subordinating conjunctions. So to show opposition or contrast, we use although and though when we are contrasting two parts or two elements of a single thing, person, idea, action, or fact. For example, in this sentence, although I was sick, I went to work. So two parts of a single thing. Notice the subject is the same in both clauses, I. He got an A in the class, though he never studied. Here again, same subject in the two clauses, right? So we're showing contrast for the same subject. Now, when we use while or whereas, usually we're contrasting or showing opposite of two different things, people, ideas, actions, or facts, etc. So two different people, two different things. Whereas here, although and though, one, right? Okay, my son is very talkative, whereas my daughter is quiet. So here, two different subjects. While learning Spanish is difficult, learning Chinese is much more challenging. So here, two different subjects. Okay, and here are some examples. Whoops, what's going on? Okay, let's go back. So here are some examples of subordinating conjunctions that show time relationships. After I finished my homework, I fell asleep. My husband cleaned the house while I was studying. And then we have some that show causes, right? Reasons why something happened. I was late to class because I overslept, right? So this clause introduces the reason for the first clause. As he is bilingual, it is easy for him to communicate with many people. Okay, so this clause introduces the reason for the second clause. She has a great knowledge of vocabulary since she loves to read. Okay. And then here are some examples of sentences that have conjunctions that show effects or results. I studied all night so that I could get an A on the test. I study my lessons very hard in order that I can pass all my classes. So here, notice that when we use so that, sometimes students ask, what's the difference between so that and so? Well, usually with so that, of course, so is a fanboy, so we use it in a compound sentence. So that, we can use it in a complex sentence, and usually it's followed by a subject and a modal verb, like could in a base form of verb. How about condition? So condition, we can use provided that or if. I will complete the project provided that you help me. So this shows the condition that a condition will have to be met for the thing in the other clause to be completed. First you help me, then I will complete the project. If we go to class early, we can talk to the professor. Okay, so here, let's get a little bit of practice. So complete each sentence with the correct subordinating conjunction. More than one answer may be correct. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to look at these, or you can pause the video if you like while you're looking at these and think about what would be a good subordinating conjunction for each one of these sentences. Okay, so the first sentence, you're probably going to want to use a subordinating conjunction that shows a time relationship. Like, before I went to class, I got a cup of coffee in the cafeteria. Or maybe you might say, after I went to class, I got a cup of coffee in the cafeteria. Here, I study every day, blank, I can get high grades in my ESL classes. Now, to me, I see a subject and a modal verb here. So I think that so that, right, to show an effect or a result would be the best here. I study every day so that I can get high grades in my ESL classes. How about this one? This one probably would work well with before, right? Before he went out on the date, he took a shower and dressed in nice clothing. And number 4, this one seems like a contrast. So which contrast can you use? Think. Are you comparing 2 different subjects or 1? Looks to me like 2 different ones, summers and winters. So remember, 2 different subjects, probably whereas would be a good one. In the Sacramento area, the summers are very hot, whereas the winters can be quite cold. And number 5, I like teaching English grammar. I am not very good at it. So here we are contrasting, and we have the same subject, right? So probably although or though. I like teaching English grammar, although I am not very good at it. All right, so let's talk about the next sentence type, the last one that we will learn about. That's compound complex sentences. So a compound and a complex and compound sentence combined together. So these are our longest sentences. Look at this sentence. When I first moved to the city, comma, I was afraid to drive the steep and narrow streets, comma, and I could never find a place to park. So here we have 1, 2, 3 clauses in this sentence. The first sentence is a dependent clause because it starts with the subordinating conjunction. Notice that it's followed with a comma because it's at the beginning of the sentence. Now here, this kind of looks like a compound sentence, doesn't it? It's connected by a fanboys and it has a comma. These are both independent clauses because they do not start with a subordinating conjunction. I was afraid to drive the steep and narrow streets, and I could never find a place to park. So that one had a dependent clause and 2 independent clauses. Let's look at these. Even though I studied hard for the test, I didn't pass it, so I will have to take it again next week. So here we have an independent clause and, a dependent clause, starts with a subordinating conjunction, followed by a comma, and then we have 2 independent clauses connected by a fanboys and a comma. My son takes piano lessons on Fridays, comma, and he plays soccer with his friends when he has time. So here, look at this. We have an independent clause connected by fanboys and a comma, and then we have a dependent clause. Successful students have good study habits at home. Independent clause connecting here with a comma and a fanboys. Some choose to study in groups. Okay, so another independent clause. If they enjoy working with others. A dependent clause starts with one of our subordinating conjunctions, if. Successful students have good study habits at home, but some choose to study in groups if they enjoy working with others. Okay, so that is our presentation on complex sentences and compound complex sentences, everyone. So good listening and good luck on the quiz.